There's a misconception that we don't exist, that somehow our ability to excel at the highest level of our industry is limited, that overcoming barriers as a woman of color would be insurmountable. But what would happen if we decided to venture out on our own despite everything we're up against? I'll tell you. Welcome to the Black Girls Consult 2 podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Angelina Davis, a healthcare consultant, consulting coach, high performance fanatic, wife, and proud girl mom. I help transform female professionals into thriving solo consultants. And just like you, I'm wearing all the hats and doing all the things. So this podcast is to empower the busy female professionals to move past fear to start and grow a successful consulting business, despite the obstacles you may encounter. We'll dive deep into consulting practice, business strategy, mindset, and more. So grab your cup of coffee or tea if that's your thing, and let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Black Girls Consult 2 podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Angelina Davis, and this week I thought I'd do something a little bit different. This is actually my birthday week, so I'm super excited about that as I'm about to take on another year around the sun. And whenever you get to these moments in life where you are reflecting on where you've been in the past and, really thinking about where you want to go in the future, you reach kind of these milestone birthdays that come along, and they mean a lot because it's almost as if you are splitting your life into these, I would say, kind of like chunks of time. And as you enter into a new block or a new chunk, a new phase, you really think about where you want to go, and you realize that time is of the essence. Not in a morbid way, but, you realize how quickly life passes by. And so, I'm in this phase where I am really just very attuned to grasping on and holding on to those things that I find to be most important, tapping into my purpose, tapping into what I feel as if I have been called to really do and to share with others. And a lot of the work that I do through this podcast definitely speaks to that. It speaks to all of my goals surrounding helping other women, especially women of color, grow and build successful consulting businesses. And usually we can get to, these points in our lives, especially if you're like me and you get to a phase where many people enter into this midlife crisis. I'm actually at this point of like a midlife invigoration, right? This super excitement because I feel like all the pieces of the puzzle are just kind of finally coming together. We go through those early years where we're constantly searching for what it is that we're supposed to be doing, what our purpose actually is, what we are able to offer to the world. And then we begin to kind of find some of that, and we're navigating the building process and figuring out how to build our careers, how to advance ourselves within our careers. Or if you've never gone down the career route and you've been an entrepreneur from the start, then you may also be thinking about how you're able to build a business that lasts over time. And you've likely gone through a lot of ups and downs like we all have. And I think that you get to this phase where you can now see things a little bit more clearly. And I didn't understand that when I was younger. I felt like when maybe my parents or other mentors may have said that they were just really trying to stretch and execute a lot of their authority and their power. But really, it really is this revelation that I feel like you come to because you realize, at least for yourself, what's important and what's not. You focus in on those things that will hopefully lead to a lasting change. And so that's why I'm so fixated on this whole aspect of transformation and wanting us to move further and further ahead so that we're not just really thinking about where we are now and getting stuck in this moment, but we can see clearly where we're going. And so that's why a lot of my conversation definitely, I feel like in recent months, and it will be moving forward, is how do we get there? How do we start to think bigger, dream bigger, support one another, empower one another so that we're able to take on these big challenges? Because it's all of the movement forward that is going to drive change. We need to learn from the past. We need to grow from the past. We can build from the past, but but we're not going to stay there. So with all that being said, I felt like this was a great opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about the framework that fuels, empowers my business, because this is actually based upon my experience over the years. It's what I used over time to build my consulting career. It's what I have helped others with in terms of building theirs in their careers as well as in their businesses. And it's something that I firmly believe is key to my success. And therefore, I use it when I am building any of my programs and offerings. And, it's really just so great. I really do think that this whole process, this framework is so great that I just wanted to share a little bit with you so you can become more acquainted with it, because I feel like I don't talk about it as often as I probably should. So today I want to talk a little bit about the Excel method. So if you are thinking, hey, that sounds very close to your business name, it is. Excel Consulting was built and based upon this foundational framework. And the Excel method really does speak to consultants and a strategy for your personal career and business growth. It was once again developed with that growth in mind and how you're able to navigate that more smoothly. And there are a lot of things I feel like as women in the industry, especially women of color, challenges that we run into that can limit us at times. And so the Excel method is designed for you to be able to overcome that so that you can maximize your impact in the long run. So when I'm thinking about the Excel method, I want to have you think about this whole framework as a 3-step approach or a 3-step strategy that, once again, is designed to help you excel as a consultant. And there are 3 steps in this process. I want to walk through each of these in greater detail, but just to quickly mention them so that we're kind of on the same page when it comes to what this framework entails and what's included. It includes 3 stages, so it's 3 steps, and those include expand, accelerate, and cultivate. And that is the path that it takes in order to get to this maximum impact that we often desire. When we go into business, especially business for ourselves, we're often looking to change others' lives. We're looking to make a greater impact than we could in our traditional 9-to-5, because often if we're being pulled into this entrepreneurial space is because we want more. We see that more is possible. And because we see that more is possible, then we want to be the one to help deliver that to others so that they don't have to have those feelings of being, confined or stuck or limited any longer. We can help them move beyond that. And so in order for us to really be able to execute our goals, dreams, and the things that we know will help others in our industries and in our fields, we have to first think about how we're able to do that for ourselves. And so these 3 steps will help you along the way. All right, so let's talk about step 1. And this is a big one because it is the key element that I think makes everything else possible. And this step 1 is expand. Expand actually speaks to the ability to focus your efforts and to optimize your time and develop project management skills and those things that you need in order to increase your productivity. Because there is one truth with regards to business, is that any level of growth, no matter what phase you are in your business journey, is going to require expansion. It's going to require room. And most often people enter into the business space, entrepreneurial space with a lot on their plates already. Typically, these are, individuals that are extremely ambitious. You are ambitious. You are a high achiever. You're someone that wants to tackle and to accomplish more. You're being called upon by others because they know that you can carry out the job. They know what you can do. They are very aware of your capabilities. And because of that, most people get burnt out on their jobs or in their careers because they're the ones that everybody depends on. You're the one that gets all the extra projects because you do them the best. And so because of that, many times people are very bogged down with work and responsibilities, and that can actually impair your ability to go out and to build something new. So because we know that we have to have room in order to grow, then we have to begin to create that space. And this is something that is extremely important, but is hard for many of us as women, especially women of color, because we're in situations where we may not only have careers, we may be the breadwinner in our families. We may also have children and older relatives and parents that we need to take care of. We may have other responsibilities on our plates when it comes to our friends and our other loved ones. We may have dreams of our own that don't tie directly to our business goals, but may involve things such as being able to enjoy a certain level of relaxation and stress management and travel. And so all of those things take up time. And if all of your time is tied up into all of these little things, you're going to find it very difficult to get all of the work done in order to get your business up and running and to get things, really up and rolling and those things going so that it's able to fuel itself. So expansion is a huge component of that. I talk a little bit about personal bandwidth from time to time. I want you to think about your personal bandwidth as being your work capacity. It's the room, that your ability to do work, to do more work. And the way that we increase our capacity, because our capacity is not unlimited. We all have limitations. We cannot do everything. That's one of the first things we have to accept. We cannot do everything, but we can do all the things that are most important. And this is the whole aspect of expanding your personal bandwidth, expanding your work capacity. A lot of what I touch on with many of my clients is the ability to find ways to create more time, more freedom in their lives as they currently are. I think we often put things off because we are looking for that perfect time for us to be able to sit back and carve out, a couple of months to launch something effectively. And that time never comes. The time doesn't come because you haven't prepared for it. It's not something that's going to naturally happen. Your life is not going to suddenly slow down and give you space to start your business. We would love if that happened, but that is usually not going to be the case, at least not going to be the case in a way that we desire. Typically, when those things happen, they're things that we don't desire to have happened. And so they may create space and we're able to use that effectively. But in most cases, we have to create the space in the room that we need. And this is not impossible. It really does mean that we have to become more effective and more efficient in the work that we're doing. We have to begin to think about how we're able to utilize systems, improve our workflows and processes, use automations so that we're able to get more and more done. All of that is part of expansion. All of that is part of increasing your personal bandwidth and your work capacity. So this is one key element that is a big component of the programs that I design. I try to design them in a way so that is built in. And I'm constantly thinking about how I can improve upon this. As a matter of fact, as I gear up for the next cohort of enrollment into Position to Excel, one of the things that I have been really working on is how can I increase the level of accountability in that program and the support so that we're able to carve out more time so that we can do the work that's necessary, because the program is really more of an implementation-based program. And when we're able to carve out that space, we can get more done. And I want that to be space that you can create in a way that does not create stress, but relieve stress and to make it easier. So, one of the first key elements that I feel like is so important when you're building your consulting business and growing to new levels is this whole aspect of expansion. So step one is expand. Now, step two in the Excel framework is called accelerate. And the reason why I have named it this is because it focuses on those things that will help you build your business faster. The one thing I like to share with people about my initial, I would say, introduction to consulting was that when I worked in a indigent hospital, we were used to having consultants come in to help us improve the way that we ran our services and improve the business structure. And whenever we saw consultants walk in the door, we were terrified. We knew that someone was going to get laid off, someone's time was going to get cut, projects were going to get slashed. And we felt as if those were individuals that didn't have our best interests at heart. And many times that possibly could have been the case. But over time, for me working in this profession, I recognize that in some cases, when we have those negative impressions, it is often because those individuals 9 times out of 10 did not hold the necessary skill set that allowed them to do their job most effectively, where they were able to gain full buy-in from the groups and organizations that they were working with, and to be able to drive that change in a seamless way so that they didn't invoke fear, but rather left people with a sense of relief and security. That's actually our goal when we're practicing. And when you can begin to master this aspect of emotional intelligence and building upon the core skills of leadership, relationship building, empathy, all of those things go hand in hand with you being able to move your business forward at a faster pace. And what's interesting about this is that we have a lot of different names for this. We call it soft skills. We talk about emotional intelligence, but really at the heart of it all, it gets back to our feminine power. And this is an element that we, no matter what sex you are, male, female, we all hold this element of feminine energy or feminine power. But oftentimes what I found is that in consulting, we tend to push that back because we have tied some of those elements of compassion and empathy and understanding into being somehow not as strong, not as powerful. And what I like to teach people is that there is so much power in your ability to build the type of relationships that allow you to lead from a position of influence. Because you, as a consultant, do not have the authority to change things directly. You have to depend upon your ability to influence others and actually lead in a way that is going to make them a believer in the work that you do. And so this whole aspect of accelerate is what allows you to move faster, where you're not just focused on the tactics or even focused on the strategy itself, but you're getting into this aspect of belief in the work that you do and allowing that belief to drive you forward because you are focused on the change, you're focused on the transformation, you're focused on solving the problem of the client. And when you remain so client-centered and client-focused, everything else becomes easier. It becomes easier for you to market your services. It becomes easier for you to sell your offers. It becomes easier for you to practice day by day because you are keeping the client in front of you and you're not fixated on those things that are going to distract you and pull you away from providing a superior client experience that then turns into something that is of higher caliber than most people would have imagined or would have anticipated or expected from someone in your position. So accelerate is really key. And once again, this is tied to really enhancing those core consulting skills and enhancing the core emotional intelligence and soft skills that we need to work closely with our audience and generate results that are lifelong, that are going to be something that really changes the landscape for them. And the third thing is that once you've mastered creating space and you've learned how to carry out your day-to-day consulting work and have built a solid practice, then you can think about how do you begin to cultivate that? How do you begin to optimize your service offering so that you're able to increase client satisfaction and the return on investment? It's about building processes and systems that draw people in that are in alignment with the services that you provide and in alignment with your core values, your core beliefs, and your mission. All of those things make you being able to grow and advance your messaging much easier. And so the end goal in this whole cultivate phase is to create a more natural and direct system for you to build your business on in the future. you are nourishing it. You're allowing it to blossom. And this whole cultivation phase takes work. It is the constant enhancement in this continual process of thinking through your efforts, making the necessary changes as needed as you go along, improving in your programs, your offers, your services, so that what you are providing truly is something that stands out in your industry. These things together will allow you to build something that is unlike any other. And I can vouch for that. I have done it for myself in my career and now working toward that even further in my business. So I feel like this is a framework that never ends. It carries you for the lifetime of your business. There should never be a point that you get to where you feel like things are good enough. And the reason why you should never get to that point is because we are constantly changing and evolving. Even when you land upon the perfect messaging, the perfect offer, the perfect client, you know how to speak to them directly, something will come along as they advance in their journey that's going to require you to elevate. It's going to require you to grow. And every time you get to this point of elevation and this point of growth, you have to go through the process again. You have to create room to expand. You have to think about how you need to accelerate your business model by really tapping into those things that allow you to connect with your potential clients in a more stronger, have developed a more stronger connection with them. And then you have to think about how do you begin to cultivate, optimize, and enhance those services so that you're able to meet their needs at a newer level. All of that just continues throughout your journey. And it includes adding on additional services and additional offers and maybe even branching out in new ways over time. But I want you to just have this whole idea that when you are starting your journey, you want to look at it as being something that proceeds through a given path, a structure that will help you create the space, take the things that you have and utilize those things to the best advantage, cultivate those things so that the point where they get to be well known and people begin to refer you and recommend you because your services are outstanding. And that's when you know you're really building a business that's going to last. So I know I don't share much about this, but this is a lot of what I do and what I'm continuing to focus on, even as I'm thinking about my business and moving forward. How can I create more space? How can I tap into these connections with you as my listening audience on the podcast in a more natural way? I want this to continue to grow as a community. How can I build that community? How can I accelerate that so that, we're able to have deeper connections? Those are all of the things that I'm constantly processing and working through. And then how can I continue to cultivate, as I said before, improving programs, improving the work that I do so that it continues to deliver not only its promise, but meet and exceed expectations. Those are the things that we want to focus on so that we can continue to grow and advance over time. So I hope you stay with me on this journey, and I hope that you will see all this in action, because it is definitely my focus as I move forward is to expand, accelerate, and cultivate. And that is using the Excel method framework. If you want to find out more about this, I have it all on my website. You can actually go to excelconsulting.com/the-excel-method, and you can learn all about it. But this is just, I think, a good way for you to think about how do you achieve and maximize your impact in your industry. Because it's a lot more than you just trying to find clients in the moment. You have to have something in place for you to build upon and to grow over time so that you can move beyond the smaller business into whatever the big goal for you is that lies ahead. For some, it may be becoming a major thought leader in your space. For others, it may be starting that elite boutique agency. For many others, maybe you are thinking about having a major consulting firm. All of this is possible. All of this is doable for you. You just have to make space for it effectively, accelerate that process, and cultivate it and make it better and better. All right, guys. I hope this helps. I hope that you've enjoyed this podcast. And if you get a chance, then make sure you leave a review on Apple Podcasts, or you can actually leave your rating on Spotify. So I know I've had a couple of you reach out to me about, the fact that you don't have iPhones and you're not listening to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, but you want to leave a review of some kind. You can definitely leave your rating on Spotify. It is greatly appreciated. And that's something that's a little bit newer. So I guess I haven't pubbed that as much, but you can definitely do that too. All right. Well, until next time, I hope you have a great one, and I will talk to you soon. Take care. Thank you for tuning in to the Black Girls Consult 2 podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to leave your review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and share it with a friend. We're on a mission to increase the success and longevity of women in consulting, and you can help us do that. Also, I'd love to hear from you, so let's connect at Dr. Angelina Davis on Instagram or LinkedIn. And don't forget to visit excelatconsulting.com for more information to support your consulting journey. Until next time, take care.